Good morning, 7th grade. It is Monday, April 27th, and we are doing, oh, guess what? I'm on the wrong side. We are doing lesson 106. There it is, lesson 106. Okay, now we're going to talk about three things today, and this is a little bit of a shorter lesson, so you'll like this. We're going to talk about literal equations, transforming formulas, and more on roots, lesson 106. Now let's start with literal equations. Well, what is a literal equation? It's an equation that, any equation that contains letters instead of numbers. So literature, we talk about, we did that in English class, we're talking about reading books, and literal equations, like literature, involves letters, okay, instead of numbers. So let's go ahead and look at this first equation. X plus A equals B, not a number in sight. All variables, which is what a mathematical term for a letter. So we're going to go ahead and solve for X. Now, we have X plus A equals B. Well, if A were a number like X plus 4 equals B, what would we do to both sides? We would subtract 4 from both sides. So what we're going to do here is, instead of subtracting 4 from both sides, we're going to subtract A from both sides. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and put a minus A here. Now, I'm not going to put the minus A under the B because they aren't like terms. We only want to line up like terms underneath each other. So I'm just going to stick the minus A to the right, okay? Now let me draw my bar all the way across, and now I'm just going to start over here like I always do and come down. I'm going to bring the X down. Well, A minus A, just like 4 minus 4, would have a sum of 0. So it's just going to go away. Don't put the 0 down there. Okay, now bring down your equal sign, and what I've got over here, I'm just going to write, is B minus A. Okay, and that's my answer. X equals B minus A, and I've solved for X. In other words, I've isolated X. It's all by itself on the left side of the equation. Let's try this one. Solve it for X again. A times X equals B. Well, if this were 3X equals B, I would divide both sides by 3. But I don't have a number. I only have letters or variables. But I'm going to do the same thing. To isolate X, I'm going to eliminate this factor by doing the inverse operation. I'm going to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides, 2 separate division bars. Divide by A over A. Cross that out, and I get X equals B over A. And I have isolated X again using division this time. Okay, now let's do the same thing with transforming a formula. That means what we're going to do is we're going to take a formula we know, like area equals length times width. Well, what is that? The area of a rectangle. And we're going to isolate one of the variables, L or W. In this case, we're going to solve for W. So I'm going to go ahead and look on the side with W. L is multiplied by W, so the inverse of multiplication is division. Let's divide both sides by L. Notice my L is a cursive L, so it doesn't look like a 1. All righty, now what's going to happen is the L's are going to cancel out to 1 over 1, and I've isolated W. Oh, solve for W. Awesome. So I'm going to write W on the left side. W equals, now here is what it equals. It equals the area divided by the length. And there I have isolated my variable. And that's it. We have one more thing to talk about, and that is on the flip side here. And let's talk about simplifying cube roots. We've done square roots. Let's do cube roots. Now, this says, what is the cube root of 27? In other words, it's saying, what number raised to the 3rd power would give me 27 as an answer? What number would that be? Well, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. And so 3 is the cube root of 27. Ah, I forgot to put this number. This number, by the way, right here is called the index number, okay? And so this index number, if you don't see anything there, it's an implied square root. There should be a 2 there, but we never see it. They just don't write it because it's such a common thing. But when we have something other than a square root, our index number changes here. And let me put a number sign there. Okay, So what is the cube root of 1,000? What number multiplied by itself 3 times would give me a product of 1,000? Well, I hope you thought of it by now. It is the number 10. 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. Now, this is something we've never seen. We cannot do the square root of -4 because there is no number that you can multiply by itself and give you a negative answer. Okay, because 2 negatives give you a positive. So this is impossible. This is impossible to get a real number here. Now, let's go ahead, though, and look. I have the cube root of a negative number. Well, the cube root of a negative number works because, let's think about it. What is -2 times -2 is +4. And +4 times -2 is -8. And so if I'm asked for the cube root of a negative number, it's going to be a negative answer. Okay? Now, what is the cube root of -125? Well, what number multiplied by itself 3 times would give me -125? Well, it's always going to be a negative number, and I hope you guessed it by now. It is -5. -5. So, there we go. With cube roots, we can have negative roots. Okay, that's the whole lesson for today. Let's go ahead and look at some problems, and then I'll tell you about the omissions. Now, 9A is an omission, so please put need help. Need help. That will help me grade it so much easier, okay? If you don't put need help, it will count as a wrong answer, and that will go into your grade. So please, you don't want to do that, okay? Need help on that. Everything else should be a green or red. Alrighty, now, the cube root of -64. Well, let's see. -2 cubed is -8. -3 cubed is -27. What is -4 cubed? Well, -4 times -4 is 16. What is 16 times -4? -64. And so we have our answer. -4, when it is cubed, would give me -64. So -4 is the cube root of -64. Okay. Now, let's do some literal equations over here. Some literal equations. Let's solve number 23A for x. It'll tell you which variable to solve for. They can vary. Now, this one we want to solve for x. So we want to isolate x and eliminate the plus c. But what's the inverse of adding c? Subtracting c. So let's go ahead on your homework paper and subtract c. Please put the -c to the right of the d term. They are not like terms, so we don't want to put them right underneath each other. Draw your subtraction line all the way across. Put a cancel line through that, because c minus c cancels out. And I bring down my x. I bring down my equal sign. Well, what do I have over here? I'm going to start with the d and then minus c. Well, x equals d minus c, a literal equation that we have solved. There are no numbers. It's all variables. This is the way algebra is. We do a lot of things just with the more abstract variables that don't have a specific value. Okay, now let's solve for n in B. Well, n is over here. What have I got with n to eliminate? A factor of A. A times n equals B. So what do I do to eliminate this factor? Well, what's the inverse of multiplication? Division. And so what I'm going to do on both sides is draw 2 separate division bars, divide both sides by A because I want to isolate n. Well, A over A is 1 or 1n, and then I simply get n equals B over A. And I have finished. Okay, that went great. Now, let's go ahead and do our omissions for today. We up here are going to omit, what are we going to omit? 1, 2, 5, 9A. We already talked about omitting 9A. I'm going to write it up there again. 11, 15, 16, and 22. Okay, let's review those one more time. 1, 2, 5, 9A, 11, 15, 16, and 22. We also have con Academy is due on Friday evening. Due on Friday evening, okay? Now, let me say this. If you forgot to do it last week, okay, and some of you did forget to do it, I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 in there for right now, or a missing. I'll put a missing. You can go to your Khan Academy assignments, and it'll say active ones that haven't gotten to their due date yet, and then it'll say past. There'll be another link you can hit a click, and it'll say past. Click on the past, and it'll say when it was due. I think it's in red because it's past due, but you can still start it and do it, okay? And that way, if you want to go back and catch up and not get zeros on those, I'd be happy to go back and give you grades on those. So I will check those at the end of every week and see if you have made up any of your assignments. So you can go back in Khan Academy to past assignments and go ahead and make those to eliminate your missing zeros. All righty. So I hope you have a great Monday, and I'll see you at Zoom at 1 or 2 if you need me for anything. If not, I will be back with you Tuesday morning. Bye-bye.